Kevin Durant.
I just want to keep going up. You should have hated a little more, because really it ain't good enough.
So let's take a look at Kevin Durant's, Hall of Fame career timeline here. You see he was the second pick, signed with the Warriors, 3 seasons, 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, just that devastating Achilles injury. But he really redefined, in my opinion, what it means, what you can come back and be from an injury that used to be thought of as career-ending, as catastrophic. He played 2 seasons with the Nets. And then the big one, why we are talking about it, our Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that he has requested a trade today from Brooklyn. So now I want to bring in our front office insider, Mr. Booby Marks, and senior writer Brian Windhorst. And Brian, I want to start with you here. Where do you see as feasible, realistic landing spots for Kevin Durant here?
Well, the places that he is focused on, from what I've been told, are Miami and the Phoenix Suns, particularly the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have more options to trade. They don't have a star that they're willing to trade. They're not going to trade Devin Booker. In fact, in the next few hours, they're probably going to sign Devin Booker to a $200 million Supermax extension. He will not be eligible to be traded. And Chris Paul is not going to be traded. So what you're going to look at is whether the Suns can put DeAndre Ayton in a sign and trade. And I believe that the timing of Kevin Durant's trade request is tied to the fact that he wants to get himself to Phoenix. He wants to make open that possibility of a sign and trade with DeAndre Ayton, who can start to negotiate with teams in about 45 minutes here. And you also have some other players on that roster that would fit the criteria of what the Nets want. What do the Nets want? They want what Sean Marks described at the end of the season in the press conference that began the move to all of this giant situation, when they said they want selfless, team-first, available players. The Suns have some guys like that. None of them are MVP candidates like Kevin Durant is. Miles Bridges, Cam Johnson, something around DeAndre Ayton. They also own all of their draft picks and draft rights going forward, which means that they could negotiate a bunch of draft picks and a bunch of draft swaps. As for the Miami Heat, they have big contracts that could be traded. Guys like Kyle Lowry, guys like Jimmy Butler even. They have some young players that have interest, Max Strus, Tyler Hero.
Yep.
They have the ability to create up to 3 first-round picks. But one thing we should point out, and Bobby can go into this in more detail because he knows about it, in any kind of trade with Miami and Brooklyn, Miami couldn't trade Bam Adebayo for Kevin Durant unless it was for Ben Simmons for a lot of complicated reasons. So think about that as you look at it. Obviously, a bunch of other teams are going to want to get in on it, but those are the 2 teams I am told that Kevin Durant is focused on.
Okay, so there's a whole lot there. Booby Marks, I want to bring you back into this conversation because can you make this work? What exactly will this look like? Let's start with the Miami Heat.
Well, I think if you're Brooklyn, you would certainly want Bam Adebayo, but as Brian said and we talked about earlier, you cannot acquire Bam Adebayo with Ben Simmons on your roster because of the designated rookie extension. So basically, you would either have to move Simmons off or use Adebayo in another deal. I mean, here's your roster. Certainly, what does Jimmy Butler do for you? If you're a team like Brooklyn and you are rebuilding, does Jimmy Butler do anything for you? I don't think so. Certainly not Kyle Lowry. He has 2 years left. Maybe Tyler Hero, certainly rookie extension eligible. They've got 3 first-round picks. I don't see a pathway for Miami to get in the Durant sweepstakes because of the Adebayo situation unless Brooklyn is willing to trade Ben Simmons.
And what about for the Suns?
Yeah, the Phoenix, too. I mean, when you look at their roster, Malika, we can go through Phoenix here. The problem is going to be DeAndre Ayton, right? If Brooklyn is looking to rebuild, what is $140 million of DeAndre Ayton? If I'm Brooklyn, I want Devin Booker. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Devin Booker, and I'm looking for Mikal Bridges, and I'm looking for draft picks.
Yep.
Like, DeAndre Ayton doesn't do anything for me. And I know Mikal Bridges is a nice player, but I want star-level appeal for Kevin Durant, who's got 4 years left on his contract.
Bobby, you worked in the front office for the Brooklyn Nets for many years. Do you have a preference out of these 2? One that you like more, one that you're more intrigued by?
Well, can I give you a third team?
Yes, please.
Let's go to a third team here, Malika. Like, this is what I would be intrigued with. I'm intrigued with Zion Williamson. And here's what's going to happen in about, what do we got, 7 hours? When we get to midnight, rookies are eligible to sign.
Oh my gosh, we're on TV for 7 hours. Bobby, don't say things like that. Go ahead.
Rookies are eligible to sign extensions. What happens with Zion Williamson in 7 hours? Does New Orleans hold off on an extension thinking possibly they can get Kevin Durant? Or do they extend him? And basically we can eliminate the Pelicans from the Durant sweepstakes here. It's going to be a fascinating something to watch, in the next 7 or 8 hours here.
Bobby, thank you so much. I want to bring back in our panel here because Tim Legler. Yeah. I feel like I'm asking like when I know this is a rhetorical question. Which trade proposal do you like the most?
Well, first of all, if I'm Sean Marks, I don't know what I'd be looking at to have any interest in even answering the phone if I knew it was coming in from the Miami Heat. There is nothing there that I want back when you're talking about Kevin Durant. Obviously, Phoenix is better, but again, your top ceiling cannot be DeAndre Ayton for Kevin Durant. Mikal Bridges is a really nice player. Mikal Bridges has a very defined ceiling in this league as an offensive player. He's primarily going to be a 3-and-D guy. He's got a little better off the dribble. He's never going to average more than 15, 16 points a game. So if that's the ceiling, to me, that's also not appealing enough. It would have to include Booker, and based on what Wendy just said, doesn't look like that's going to happen. I love the New Orleans one, but I'm looking at a different guy on that team. I'm looking at Brandon Ingram. That's the guy that
like somebody accidentally said his name earlier.
Either one works. Look,
that's the guy I want back if I'm Sean Marks. You're talking, how old is Brandon Ingram? 25, 26?
Young,
very
he's
young.
Locked up.
He's young people.
He's locked up. He's a 24, 25 point a game scorer in this league that you can make as your primary scoring threat to build an offense around. And then you
He's
get
24.
more.
He's
He's
even
24 years old. In addition to him, you would get more. I think that Zion, if that's your crown jewel in this trade, to me, that's a risk for Sean Marks because of his injury history. Ingram is a proven top-tier scorer that can be a guy that you can run your offense through, 100%. I'm more interested in Ingram than Zion, I think.
We're mentioning the right names now, and the issue with what Wendy said about, of course the Nets would love to have Devin Booker and Mikal Bridges, but I keep saying this, Kevin Durant is going to have to go to a team that feels like it can win after they trade a lot of stuff for Kevin Durant. That's harder to do than it sounds when you're talking about trading the best young assets off a team. Kevin Durant is going to go to Phoenix to play with Devin Booker, and Phoenix is not going to offer Devin Booker in exchange for Kevin Durant. Zion is the kind of name I'd be looking at. Scotty Barnes is the kind of name I'd be looking at. And again, that requires a conversation with the Raptors, with Masai Ujiri, with Kevin Durant. But you put Kevin Durant on those rosters in place of those players, those teams say, wait a second, we can win the championship this year. And that's what the league is about. You can talk about compromising your future, and it is scary. The Heat even, like 3 first-round picks, unprotected, a bunch of swaps. That's scary. I don't care what team you are. Yeah. It's also scary for the Hawks having traded all that stuff.
By the way, all this is a moot point, it sounds like. Okay, let's just say the Pelicans got involved, right? And we're talking about one of these two players and a package featuring either Zion or Brandon Ingram. Well, for all we know, Kevin Durant just goes, hell no.
Right.
I'm not going. I'm not going to be happy there. Automatically, the entire trade talks change. So we don't even know if that's something that would even be feasible because these guys have so much power now to dictate where they want to go, or at least one of two teams go make it happen. Otherwise, I'm going to be an unhappy camper. And now you really run a risk giving up a Zion Williamson or a Brandon Ingram to get a guy in-house that potentially doesn't really want to be there.
I think it comes down to how much do Sean Marks and the Brooklyn Nets organization value and where their value stands for as Ben Simmons, and what type of player do they see him being? Because we give Ben Simmons a lot of heat, and rightfully so, because the last time we saw him play, it was pretty damn bad. All right, we saw him play, it was pretty damn bad. But before then, in times when Joel Embiid was out, we watched Ben Simmons have 30-point triple-doubles. We watched Ben Simmons go for a 40-piece wing dinner spicy. We watched Ben Simmons look like a quote-unquote young superstar in the making. He's already one of the best defensive guys in the game today.
The 40-piece was mild, by the way.
Yeah, it wasn't spicy. It was mild. Right, because they lost to the Utah Jazz.
On there,
but it might have been spicy because it was against the defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert, right? So when I think about that situation and Ben Simmons, it's like, okay, do we value him enough? Do we think we could build around him? And you have to be honest with yourself.
The answer is no.
Yeah. No, it's no now. But Ben Simmons not 25 yet. Like, Ben Simmons is still young. Like, I'm critical of Ben Simmons. But in all honesty, like, do we think we could see a better version of Ben Simmons? Hell yeah.
I hope so.
I can't unsee what I saw against the Atlanta Hawks. I can't unsee that. I just cannot unsee it. A starting point guard that refuses to take a field goal attempt in 5 fourth quarters in a 7-game series, hands off for me. When I think about
He
what
says, it's a no from me, dog. Rich,
Yeah.
what do you say?
Oh, to go back at Ben Simmons, ideally, if he was next to KD and Kyrie, those boys will shoot all the balls and win you everything that you need to do in the fourth quarter. You don't need him offensively.
Yep.
Now that those guys aren't going to be there, the way you look at Ben Simmons is far different because the way he is successful, if he has a ton of offensive firepower around him, primarily shooting. Those were the best two of the top 5 shooters in the world, especially. So, like, you look at Ben Simmons far differently than you look at him now with the idea of those two guys being gone, KD and Kyrie.
Well,
I'm
and
not saying I'm high on them. I'm
No,
just
no, I'm
saying
just saying,
if
like-
I'm showing Marks, I wonder how do
But
they
the
act.
reason we're having even these conversations about Ben Simmons is because of the domino effect of Kevin Durant asking out. Kyrie, as our Adrian Wojnarowski reported, is not expected to be in a Brooklyn Nets uniform. It would be hard to see that scenario. So now we're down to Ben Simmons. So when you're picking up the phone, Zach, New Orleans is one of those teams that you're